The Phillies have a rough week against the AL East, but come back to win 2 or 3 against the Padres. Where should our worry be and what needs to happen next? The Sixers, the offseason is now. I'm going to give you the 3 most important things they need to do to make sure next year is a special season. And can Jalen be Carsoned? We will discuss up next on PSD.
We lost. It looked just like this game. We can't even hit a beach ball.
No heart. That's one thing that this city demands is heart. This team had none of it. It's a disgrace.
Philly fans, we always stink. Philly fans, we always stink.
What are we talking about here? Hello, everybody, and welcome back to PSD, Philadelphia Sports Disorder. I'm your host, resident therapist, whatever the hell you want me to be, Rob Lange. My man Quentin is in the house. I appreciate all of you out there watching. Please make sure you're subscribing. This is our first live episode of PSD. All right, up till now, we were recording it. Now, we are live. Why? Because I want to talk to you. I'm going to talk to my friends. I want to get into some battles with some people who love to just set me off. And I could tell my man, my co-host from Party on Broad, Mr. Crockpot out there, he's already trying to get me all riled up on Sixers news. But we'll get to that. We will get to Sixers news. All right. But before we do, I want to kind of go reverse the way I've been going. I've really been going Phillies, Sixers, Eagles. But right now, since the Phillies are in season, we're going to save them for the end. And we're going to start with the Philadelphia Eagles, okay? A report came out this week that from our resident, let's say, our Philadelphia's own jackass, Howard Eskin, but seems to be tied into the team. Howard Eskin has said that he believes Jalen Hurts could be Carson Wentz if the season is not a success. And my question that I'm looking to be answered is, does this have validity? Does this have validity? And I got to be honest with you. I think it does. See, I think it does because I think we've seen a different Howie Roseman this year. We've seen a Howie Roseman who has started to realize mistakes and is quick to make up for those mistakes. And you saw it with the aforementioned Carson Wentz. Now, none of us liked it. All of us thought it was too quick. None of us liked the drafting of Jalen Hurts. He's looking like a pretty good genius right now with that move. Because Carson lost it up here. He lost it. That injury and the subsequent injury after that, he lost it. So I come here to tell you this. And Quentin says it right away. It was part performance, part personality. But we've talked about Jalen Hurts' personality this season. You know, the stoic is great. But at some point, you know this fan base, I know this fan base. If he's not playing well and we're not seeing any change in mentality, people are going to turn on him. And this front office, as bad as they can be, as frustrating as they can be at times, they seem to make the moves they need to stay relevant. You know, I heard someone talking today, and they talked about the difference between the Eagles and many other front offices. A lot of it, and they said some are more scout-based. They watch film. Others are all analytics. The Eagles do both, and they do both well. There's a reason why every season we go into it thinking, all right, they got a chance this year. All right. And as Mr. Crockpot Dive says, Howie Roseman is much, much better when it comes to cleaning up the mess versus building a Super Bowl contender. And I agree with that. I just think that they are very quick to get to cleaning up the mess now. They're not going to wait. They're not going to wait until they have to tear the whole thing down and go 5, 6, 7, 8 years. That's not what they're going to do now. So when I first saw this report, I'll be honest with you, I looked at it and I said, here's Howard Eskin again, just riling up some trouble because there's 5 weeks until training camp or whatever the hell it is. But the more I've sat back and thought about it, I don't think this is far off. If Jalen Hurts is not good this year, I would not at all be surprised to see the Eagles pivot quickly and look for another answer quarterback. Do I think it's a good decision? I don't know. But who am I to doubt this guy right now? Who am I to doubt it? See, you got to come at me. I'm trying to talk about Jalen Hurts and the offense, and you got to come back at me with the guy who's going to be the defensive MVP. You're going to be defensive MVP. I said it. Now you got me. See, now I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to make that guarantee. This is why I wanted to go live, though, because you're going to get me fired up and you're going to get me to say shit I really don't want to say. But I do think Devin White's going to be very good. Heard some things about Vic Fangio today that tells me Devin White is in for a really good season. Back to Jalen. I can't doubt Howie when it comes to cleaning up messes and making moves, playing chess instead of checkers. I mean, how many times have we heard a team say they thought Howie was doing this and then he does this? Did any of us expect Howie to stay at his pick this year? I know the board fell that way. I know he was making calls, but he stayed. And then he drafted not one, but two defensive backs. In a year where that defensive backfield was putrid last year. They were horrible. Injuries aside, they were just bad. And he went out and addressed the situation. And for the first time in a long time, when I look at this defense right now, it almost looks like you've got your depth and stars in the back end instead of up front. That is a total swap from what we've seen with this team year in and year out. So I don't think it's that far off to say Howie Roseman could cut bait with Jalen Hurts. And I'm not trying to start a debate. I'm not trying to tell you that's what I want him to do. What I'm trying to do is tell you that I think it's a possibility. All right? Let's get to some comments before we move on here. Brad checks in. Let's go Philadelphia. Howie Roseman made some big offseason signings. And hopefully this Philadelphia Eagles team this year, we go all the way back to the Super Bowl. That is the hope. Not sure if it can happen. We'll see, because they got to prove it, right? That's the one thing. They got a lot of talent, but they got to prove it. Dives comes back in. If it's week 6 and Jalen Hurts continues to struggle against the blitz, what's your response? We're going to be up in arms. We're going to be up in arms. And you're going to have a faction that wants to blame nothing but the coaches, and maybe they are to blame. But at some point, he's a veteran now. This is not a young guy anymore. He's played in the Super Bowl. He's played MVP caliber football at times. So there is no way that by week 6, if he's not reading the blitz, we're all going to sit here and go, just give him some time. I'm not. This show won't. I'll rip him a new one. I'll rip them all a new one. Whoever needs it will get it. That's the only way to respond to that. But for right now, it is an interesting question. But it's not just creating a storyline. I think this is the new direction of the Philadelphia Eagles. I think this is the kind of thing they're going to do. So we'll have to wait and see. Hopefully it doesn't come to that. Hopefully we're not talking about that all year. But I do believe if it's a bad year, watch out. So with that, we'll flip to our normal negative talk. Probably still will be negative talk. I got to tell you, as this offseason comes about, I have no faith. I have no faith right now in the 76ers. Every move I think about, I'm just like, And then, right before we come on, and they must have known we were going live today. Oklahoma City and Sam Presti must have known we were going live today. Okay? He's playing chess while everybody else is playing checkers. Being a Thunder fan is so much fun. Why? Because one of the guys that we talked about so many times on Party on Broad, you've heard him brought up to the Sixers so many times, Alex Caruso, we're just getting started. Reports are made today that Alex Caruso is going to the Oklahoma City Thunder for Josh Giddey. And that's heartbreaking because that was a guy that I thought could have played a pivotal role on this 76ers team. You know, Oklahoma City did their own little process, but they've gotten back a hell of a lot quicker than the Sixers did. And I'm extremely disappointed that here's another move that goes by and I look and say, did the Sixers even try? Now, last week we talked about the Boston Celtics, and they will take risks, and they will do what they have to do to put a winning team on the floor. And what happens? They just won another championship last week, or the beginning of this week. So I'm very disappointed. Okay? I'm very disappointed. And we could talk about this as well in this situation. I got to get rid of this background, guys. It's driving me nuts. I feel like I'm in the Matrix. Jesus Christ. Anyway, the Paul George news is huge. It's going to force Daryl Morey to get creative and think outside the box, which is the best course for the Sixers. I'm not saying I disagree. And that news, if you've missed it, is that the Sixers' interest seems to be waning, and they seem to be moving in another direction. Which, okay, that's fine. That's fine. But today I'm going to give you my 3 musts for this offseason. The 3 things they have to do. All right? But if it's not Paul George, that's fine. We don't have to go there with Paul George. All right? Rick checks in. Rick, how are you? 76ers front office will screw up this offseason because that's what they do. Bad front office moves is the reason they haven't won a championship in 40 years. That kind of takes me back to what I was discussing last week. This is not just a Daryl Morey situation. The front office has been bad for years and decades. Decades. This is nothing new. We've been dealing with this for decades. So Brad brings up the Paul George thing. Now, up until today's news, I really thought that's the direction we were going. Not because of Joel Embiid. It just seemed like that was the route they were going to go. Now, what's happening behind closed doors, we don't know. Okay? I'm looking at our man Dibes, and I think we have a couple close ones, Dibes, but as always, a couple differences. Okay? Couple differences. When does Elton Brand get heat? Mike, I don't think Elton Brand gets heat because he's like a non-factor. They could say all they want. Oh, yeah, he's a non-factor now. He's a non-factor. He was in over his head. It was a terrible situation. Thanks a lot, Brian Colangelo. And he was in over his head. So that's why I don't think he gets the hate and the visceral that other guys get. But here we go. Let me get to my 3 musts for the Sixers this year. You could disagree. You'll be wrong, but you can disagree all you want. But these are the 3 musts for this team. Number 1, they need the third scorer. They need a guy who will be a volume shooter, who can take a little bit of the pressure off of Joel Embiid, who can play a big role in games that Joel does not play, and can score the basketball and give this team an opportunity to win when Joel's not out there. And a guy that can play alongside of Maxey for years to come, hopefully. I, unlike many people out there, am not as worried about the age because I see this window at 2 to 3 years. And I'm not worrying about past that right now. Because to me, if you don't win in the next 2 years, Joel's going to go. And this whole thing's over. And then we worry about the future. Because it's time to blow up and just build around Maxey. But for right now, Joel's here. So you can't go that route. You can't just blow up right now. I think it would be a bad decision. Fultz over Tatum, Iverson over Cook. Come on. First of all, Fultz over Tatum. Brian Colangelo. And once again, we can all sit here right now and we could play revisionist history and we could say, oh, how do you pick Fultz over Tatum? If you remember back to that draft, ladies and gentlemen, this is what we need to do as a fan base. If you can remember back to that draft, the majority, if not everyone, it was almost a unanimous thing that Markelle Fultz should be number one. Almost unanimous. And the Celtics were always taking Jason Tatum. Always. Always, always, always. Listen, you could go Iverson and Kobe. I mean, that to me doesn't make any sense because once again, in 1996, Allen Iverson was far and away the number one overall pick. Trading Mikal Bridges was bad. I understand what they were trying to do. It didn't work. It failed. They gave a guy an injury. Larry Hughes over Paul Pierce, I'll always agree with you. I'll always agree with you. I'm not saying that they haven't been bad. I'm not saying that they're paid to do their homework. They are. But the world thought Markelle Fultz. The world said Allen Iverson. You know, Markelle Fultz in college could shoot. Then he developed some stupid-ass ailment that no one ever heard of. I mean, you can't make this stuff up that these guys do. Between him and Ben Simmons. Remember who they had playing guard in Boston at the time. Okay. If my calculations are correct, Kyrie Irving was there. They weren't going to draft another guard. And I mean, once again, all you're doing is revisionist history there. And those guys aren't in charge anymore, so we have to move on past that. Mitch, how we doing, my man? Good to see you. Quentin, you're in here as well. Buddy Hield was supposed to help with shooting, but he disappeared after the initial hot start. That was a killer. I think we all like that move. It just didn't work out. So for me, that third scorer, that guy that can take the bull by the horns and give you a 30-point game, I think is huge. Number two, you need wing defenders, but they don't have to be stars offensively, but they cannot be a liability offensively. They can't be a guy that no one's going to cover. They can't be Tobias Harris. Listen, Boston is loaded. Boston is loaded. You need long, athletic wings who can defend, but can also come down and give you something on the offensive side of the ball. We can't just keep going for these one-way guys. I feel like every signing they make, this guy's really good offensively, but can't play defense. This guy's really a solid defender, but he's very offensively limited. Stop! 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 I'm not asking for 3-and-D stars. I'm just asking for guys that can play both ways in the NBA. That's it. It's not a hard ask. There's guys out there, and they're not all max guys. You've got to find them, and you've got to bring them in. Dibesy. Dibesy wants me to get on the draft a guy wagon so bad, and it's just not going to happen. Now, I've said it. I think I said it last week, Dibes. I'd be okay if this kid could come in and play right away, but I don't know that he can. And Rick, yeah, they do. Boston has done their homework, and they've done well. And they have 18 championships. Now, with that said, I believe in my lifetime they only have 2 or 3. So I could care less about the 70s and the early 80s. Be honest with you. Care less about them. Has nothing to do with me. Has nothing to do with me. So, I mean, yes, Boston is better than the Sixers in every which way right now. And it makes me sick. It makes me want to vomit. I hate everything about it. I hate everything about that fan base. I think they're smug, punk bastards. I hate them. And they get another title. I hate it. I hate it. It sucks. It pisses me off. I can't talk about Boston anymore. All right, let me get to my third and final must for the 76ers. For the love of Jesus himself, get a backup big who can play. Get me somebody. Somebody. There's got to be a backup big who I feel comfortable with coming in for Joel Embiid. This has been his entire career. I don't even care if they overpay at this point. You know Joel's not playing 82. You know he's going to be banged up many times during the season. Get a guy so you can control his damn minutes. Gwen, why you got to play with me, man? Why you got to play with me? Why? It was the greatest thing in the world to know that I got rid of that guy, and you just got to bring his name back up here today. You just got to bring up Korkmaz. But no, look, third scorer, wing defenders, backup big. Let's go. The clock is now friggin' ticking. You know what they said in Rocky. You know what Apollo said in Rocky 3. There is no tomorrow. None. This is it. You got one shot. And the whole city is watching. Everyone is watching. Yo, there's no one better at trolling than Philadelphia, right? Yeah, there's not a person here who believes this statement. They just want to get me riled up. I'm not going to do it. Not going to do it. Not going there. Not going there. All right, let's roll on to the Philadelphia Phillies. Rough week last week. 2-4 against Boston and Baltimore. And what did I say going into the week? What did I say going into the week? Don't freak out. It's a tough spot. They were in London. Look at the records of teams when they come back from London. Did anyone listen? No. You got people living and dying off every pitch of 2 series in June against AL opponents on the road after traveling to London. Why? We have to get out of the mindset that every sport we watch in this town is played at the schedule of football. And what I mean by that is we have to get out of the mindset that every single game is the end-all be-all, because it's not. You're going to have losing streaks in Major League Baseball. It's too long of a season. It's too much of a grind not to. Not to mention, Real Muto is out. Turner was out for a long time. Marsh was out for a couple weeks. Oh, Mr. Crockpot hates me. He does. All right. Rick says championship for the season. Look, it's absolutely within the realm of possibility. Now they come back after those 2 games. They finally get home after a really long road trip and not many days off. And you can't count the days off where they're traveling to London and traveling back. That's not a day off. Have you ever traveled? That's not a day off. Not a day off. But they come home and they win in dominant fashion game 1 against San Diego, in comeback fashion game 2, and they throw a clunker in 100-degree heat in game 3. But they are a good baseball team, guys. They're a good baseball team. Why do we have to live and die on every pitch? This isn't October. That's when you do that. Do they need help? Sure. It's become increasingly clear why this can't happen, what Mr. Crockpot is suggesting. You've got to move some talent, and you need a center fielder in here now. That outfield, when it comes to hitting, is putrid. Marsh can't hit a lefty. Castellanos is just streaky. You're going to have a couple good weeks. You're going to have a couple bad months. That's kind of the way it works. Center field needs to be somebody who can make a difference, who can bat behind Bryce so you can't pitch around them. You don't have it because Schwarber's going to keep leading off. Turner's the perfect two-hole hitter. Harper bats third. Where you going? Can't be Casty. I don't think Bohm is that guy. Stott looks lost at the plate right now. You need the power bat. You need the guy to strike fear in opponents. And you need to go all in. And I believe that they will. I believe that you're going to get a center fielder, and I believe that you're going to get a reliever. Because you can't keep throwing Soto out there. The guy stinks. But you know what Alvarado is. Dominguez seems to be slowly turning around. I really like Kerkering. I know the other night it didn't go well, but, you know, a couple bad errors, and that's what happens. This team is primed to win a championship and primed to do it right now. So what moves can they make? I just told you. I'm now on the Luis Robert train out in Chicago. Bring him in here. Here's my untouchables. You want untouchables, Dibes? Here you go. Andrew Painter. Aiden Miller. That's it. That's it. I'm moving Abel for a center fielder. I'm moving Crawford. You don't get Miller. You don't get Painter. Because those guys will probably be up sooner rather than later. But anybody else can go, man. Anybody else can go. Because you got to be win now. This team is really good. And the pitching has been exceptional, specifically from the starters. You have got to get the offense to match the pitching. And you're one bat away, in my opinion. You're one bat away. Now, if there's other pieces, if you want to get a bench bat, whatever, okay. But this cannot be a quiet trade deadline. It can't be. And I don't think it will be. Because I think this team is good, and I think they know it, and I think they're going for it. But, guys, they're like 5 or 6 games still up on the Braves. And we're acting like they're 20 games down. Just chill. Just chill. And with that, we're going to end our first ever live Philly Sports Disorder. Yeah, this is a quick show. We're coming in, we're getting out, as I told you guys before. All right, I really appreciate everybody who tuned in for our first live show. Our next one will be back in 2 weeks as I leave for vacation on Saturday and will not be here next week. But I truly appreciate everybody tuning in. Please hit the subscribe button. Tell your friends. Keep checking us out. We love it here at EOP. Until next time, relax, take a breath, and enjoy Philadelphia sports.